I think I've just made another breakthrough. Dialogue is so important. I get impatient with people because I make a lot of claims, don't I? I make a lot of claims. You would have thought that people sporting enough to engage and ask questions and have a discussion or a debate or an argument, but increasingly they just fade away. I have to go and chase them up. And they end up having to block me. I have to chase them up because, well, if there weren't such a shortage of people prepared to engage with me, I wouldn't have to go to such lengths. I wouldn't have to resort to mockery, insults. Eventually, I get some kind of answer in the form of some kind of question. So the question is, what do I say to white Westerners thinking of converting to Islam or having converted to Islam and having to deal with the Islamophobia of their social circles? This doesn't surprise me at all. So I have a feeling of regret when a secular Quranist called John Vance, who was a member of the Canadian Nationalist Party, converted to Islam. Well, he was talking to me while he was doing it. I made a point of remaining neutral, but in hindsight, I should have been more proactive. I should have been more given him more of a warning, saying, I should have said, is it necessary? Do you have to convert to Islam? You know you're just going to have to put up with a lot of, well, culture from immigrants that are going to not be particularly conducive to your mental health. Because what happens when a white Westerner converts to Islam is that, well, he becomes a low status new convert. It doesn't matter what religion you are, if you've just converted as an adult, you're not going to have any status in your new religion because you're just a newbie. So it happens that, Jewish converts converts to Judaism are also badly treated and, having their behavior and speech, being constantly monitored and probably mocked. So coupled with being rejected by their own community, they have to deal with the potential rejection of their new Muslim community, and they can't deal with it. Understandably, I wouldn't want to deal with such a thing. But then I just don't feel the need to convert to Islam. I think it's enough for me to promote secular Quranism, because the whole idea of it is that you can, using your common sense, your reason, you can see what these laws in the Quran are intended to discourage. You don't have to believe in God. You can think, well, laws against murder are to discourage murder. Laws against sexual offences are designed to discourage sexual offences and unmarried parenthood and globo homo, and laws against theft are designed to protect your property. It's pretty simple, isn't it? But for some reason, men who are always complaining about their government are unable to put two and two together. I've explained often enough what the purpose of secular Quranism is, and I get stupid questions like, how come you're not Muslim? And I do say patiently, and I repeat myself often as I need to do in this game, that I don't need to believe in God to support secular Quran, well, to conceive of secular Quranism, and you don't need to be a Muslim or believe in God to support it either. You just need to have a look at the rules so you can work out if they're going to suit your lifestyle, your potential lifestyle choices. And the most important of any person's life is their lifestyle choice, and the most important lifestyle choice is whether you do decide to get married or not. I guess most nationalists complaining about their government have no intention of getting married. That's why they don't think secular Quranism has anything to offer them. Well, why not just admit it? Well, white men, we only want to complain about non-white men taking our women, but we don't want to marry them ourselves, because that would mean having to pay for the kids and being stuck with this woman for the rest of our lives. So, no thanks. We just like to fornicate and pop and dump them. And so that's basically the preference of the average white nationalist. So, of course, their women reject this deal with the men of their own race, and so they vote for mainstream parties who keep piling on the immigration. The men are too stupid to get it, or too scared to even make these logical conclusions. I've already told them that their women despise them. They don't believe me, or maybe they've decided to go gay. It's hard to tell. Or, maybe they're just too old to even consider any kind of sex with members of the opposite sex, or, even members of their own sex. It's difficult to tell. I'm just guessing, obviously. So, these white Westerners who are thinking of converting to Islam are terrified of the rejection they're going to face from their own community, from their Islamophobic friends and family. Let's face it, that's what we mean, and their Islamophobic colleagues. And they want a safe space to go to. They don't want to go to an immigrant mosque or full of immigrants who will despise them for being, well, not good enough Muslims, who, for being incorrigible alcoholics, drug takers, sluts and slut fuckers, whom they wouldn't want their children to marry. So what is the solution to that? I have it, of course, I have it. I have answers to almost every political solution. I can't help it if you don't like it, but I do have them nevertheless. And the answer is to take the intermediate step of being a secular Quranist. Because at least you would, get some kind of engagement. So you're this white Western person, and you have your Islamophobic parents and your Islamophobic spouse, maybe, and maybe Islamophobic children, and you want to convert to Islam, but they're going to reject you and treat you like a freak. So what do? How are you going to prepare the ground for them? And I'm saying it's simple. You just say, well, I'm thinking of becoming a secular Quranist. At least so you'd get some kind of engagement, because if you say you're going to become a Muslim, they'll go, what? You're going to be a Muslim terrorist, you're going to chop our heads off, you're going to cut our hands off, you're going to throw us from tall buildings, whatever the usual stupid is. You're going to worship a paedophile prophet, the usual Islamophobic shit. So, at least if you said, well, I'm thinking, Mum and Dad, of becoming a secular Quranist, you might get some kind of engagement. What's that? You might get that. They won't be immediately throwing up their hands in horror and running out of the room and come back with a pitchfork to get you out of their home, I guess. So, secular Quranism is for Westerners. So you can imagine how annoying it has been for me so many years of saying, this is just for you, and all these white converts or potential white converts. I know they're too scared to even say, after they're converted and they're going to their mosque, that they're not going to be saying, oh, hey, brown Muslim immigrants, what do you think of secular Quranism? How about it? They'd be too frightened, of course, because, they'd be spat on and pissed on because, degenerate white converts. So don't do it. Don't even convert. If you're not prepared to argue it through, you don't deserve to become Muslim. You don't deserve anything, basically. So how are you going to deal with these questions? What is secular Quranism? You can say to your Islamophobic mum and dad, well, secular Quranism was created by a non-Muslim who understands the crucial importance of marriage and family values to any society, including, of course, Western society. Without people rearing the next generation in optimum conditions, we will suffer degeneracy. And obviously, traditional marriage, is the rearing of the next generation in optimum conditions so that children are reared by their parents, their married biological parents, living together in the same household in a loving relationship. That is a principle that must first be agreed to and proclaimed. And if you can't even bring yourself to say that, then I'm afraid I don't think you deserve to be Muslim. If you're afraid of challenging those people who don't think it's necessary to marry before having children, and you're too scared to challenge them, then you don't deserve to become Muslim. All right? It's as simple as that. You just don't deserve it, so don't bother. Tinkle Tink says, you don't need to have religion to have families. Oh, no, of course not. You can always be like non-human animals. They have families. They have litters, don't they? Dogs have litters. Cats have litters. They have litters. But most non-human animals are unmarried mothers, right? You want to live like that? Go ahead. You want to organize your society like that and then complain about it going downhill, but keep blaming Jews? Then go ahead. Jews don't think they don't have to marry before having children. They're very into their lineage, which they want to trace back as far as they can. I mean, some of them claim they go back to the days of King David. But you wouldn't care about things like that, right? If you don't think it's necessary to marry before having children, then obviously you're not fit to become a married parent. And if you're not interested in becoming a married parent, then you're not fit to be married. If you're not fit to be married, you're unmarriageable, and that means you're definitely degenerate if your parents bothered to be married before they had you. Or at least they were at one time married to each other. And if they were never married, then, well, we know what the problem is. We know that Islam considers unmarried parents to be sex offenders. And if you can't cope with that, then I guess you're not up to being Muslim. You don't deserve to be Muslim. So, well, forget it then. So we're getting the usual crap, from Tinkle Tink, who's obviously not a married father. Yeah, married people get divorced. Islam doesn't forbid divorce. Obviously, sometimes people make terrible mistakes and they have, it is better for them to part. Yes. Yes, Heidenreich says Euro-Muslims are too timid to strike out on their own. They care too much what their co-religionists think than promoting Islam to their people. I know. I mean, this is the problem I have until I met white Muslim woman. What a breakthrough that was. Finally, somebody asking the obvious questions that grown men were too afraid to ask. Christine Ramsey says, look, I already know that most Westerners are Islamophobes. I know that, Christine. So I know why Muslims, immigrant Muslims, don't want to be, getting a call from Prevent. They don't want Prevent knocking on their doors, taking away their children if they're brown and Muslim. And, well, white Muslims don't think they're up to challenging their new Muslim community in their immigrant mosques by mentioning secular Quranism. So that's a problem. So if you don't want to deal with that, just take the intermediate step of becoming a secular Quranist and talking about it. That will be a first step. Then you don't commit yourself, do you? Hello, Howard. I actually have to go. I meant this to be a short stream. So Robert said that we will be talking about this on Sunday. I think it's the last time we arranged it, well, for last Sunday was 7 a.m. Eastern time, I think, but it was definitely 2 p.m. British summertime. So I'm assuming he wants it to be the same time as last Sunday, which he couldn't make because he was ill. So okay, drug taking. I have to go. I really have to go. But I'll say this about drug taking: there will be rules against drug taking. There is a verse in the Quran. It's a most liberal verse about intoxicants. And it says, "Do not come to prayers so intoxicated you don't know the meaning of words," which is sort of pretty liberal if you think about it. There is another verse that says, "Avoid it." But if there are two different positions in the Quran, then I would say I think either it's acceptable. Yeah, don't get caught. Obviously, don't get caught, and that applies to all societies. We can be a serial killer and not get, and get away with it if you don't get caught, right? If you never get apprehended, I guess in theory you get away with it unless there is God to punish you in the afterlife. So, thank you for listening. Off I go. I will be speaking to you again sometime very soon.